Well, Labor's ideological identity crisis around climate change is continuing this week. And they couldn't quite work out whether Each Way Albo was pro-coal or anti-coal. But it appears that for once, the renewable energy evangelists and climate zealots on the left have some formidable opposition. And this time, it comes from within. We learned over the weekend a growing number of Labor MPs are urging Anthony Albanese to adopt the Coalition's 2030 emissions reduction targets, with one warning the party may never win another election unless it takes a more moderate position on climate change. Well, amid concerns Labor needs to broaden its appeal and stop alienating its working class base, Senators Alex Gallagher and Glenn Sterle have backed Resources spokesman Joel Fitzgibbon's call to adopt the government's medium-term target. And that is, of course, to lower emissions by 26 to 28% of 2005 levels by 2030. Now, James McGrath, surely this is just common sense. They've been bleeding votes over this stuff for I don't know how long. I mean, we saw the anti-Adani sentiment was a disaster for them last year. Do you think this move by some within Labor could actually win back some lost ground if they go down this path?
Yes, of course it could win back some lost ground for Labor, which is probably why deep down I don't want them to do it, because I'm happy for them to vacate the field that is Australian politics and keep scampering and carpering to the left. You just have to look at what happened here in Queensland. 23 out of the 30 seats are held by the LNP. You know, there were big swings against the Labor Party in seats like Capricornia, like Flynn, like Dawson, like Herbert, where the local members and candidates got out there. And it wasn't like a fighting, for a company called Adani. It was fighting for a simple thing, jobs, fighting for jobs. And that's what, the high vis vote, with the big boots, with the steel caps, and, the high vis vote. And that's why they reacted against Labor. And that's why some of the smart cookies in Labor, and Glenn and Alex, they're underrated in my view. They get what drives people in terms of their jobs. It backed up Joel, and I don't want to put words in Raff's mouth, but I hope Raff, supports this shift against the green extremism and focuses on jobs, because that's what this has got to be about in this current climate where we are in a recession.
Hey, James, I'm going to put some words in Raff's mouth, but I'm going to read them from this same article. And, it appears we've got one of the smart cookies on Paul Murray Live tonight. Anyway, here's what it said. It said, Victorian Senator Raff Ciccone, meanwhile, called for an overhaul of state and federal environmental laws to create new blue-collar jobs in the forestry and mining sectors. He said there needed to be changes to the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act, or the EPBC Act, to limit the ongoing legal injunctions lodged by environmental groups. Now, what more can we ask for, Raff, than your response to that? Were you accurately quoted? And is this a serious push from within Labor, or to, oust Albo, change the policy, or merely just to flex the might of the right?
Look, I'll always say that from the start, Albo has always made the point that the Labor Party that he wants to lead and lead to the next election should have a strong platform and should be a platform centred around jobs. And I don't think he's actually said anything other than that from day one. He's always wanted to have a platform, whether it be today or till the next election, about jobs. And, I know James made the point just before. Of course, governments, doesn't matter which side of politics, you need to make sure that there are jobs there for the Australian public. What I'd like to see is a lot more focus around jobs with current sectors, where there'd be mining, those in agriculture, those in forestry, in fisheries. There are a lot of opportunities there in industries that are underrated by a lot of people. And I've said this in the Parliament in the past and have quite publicly in the media made the point that instead of putting down a lot of these industries, we should be talking them up to a point where we are encouraging locals to go in and find work, trying to encourage these industries to export around the world, because quite frankly, we have some of the best minerals in the world, some of the best resources in the world, some of the best timber in the world. And I guess my comments were centred around a recent decision by Bunnings where they've decided on the 30th of June, without giving any notice, to stop sourcing timber from Victoria's sustainable timber industry. And overnight, that's put at risk around 200 to 300 jobs out in East Gippsland, in my home state of Victoria. So that's why I was very much vocal and I guess very passionate about talking about the very issues.
Raff, I hope, and I'm going to encourage you down this path and Labor down this path, but maybe, just maybe, the business environment in Victoria is not conducive under Dan Andrews. I'm going to leave that there. I'm not going to go back to you on it.